Embodying Excellence Podcast. We're your hosts, Carlo and Brenden. How's it going, Brenden?
Going really well, thank you. What about yourself?
I'm good. What a big week you've had. Hey,
Oh, yeah.
comp prep, work.
Yeah.
You went to the Power Elite gym that we did your powerlifting comp a couple of times this week.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit through that. So I know today's topic's grit, and it took a lot of grit to do the competition that you're doing 2 weeks, 3 weeks before you've actually scheduled for another comp.
Yeah.
And you just decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And so talk us through the comp, talk us through your lifts, but then let's also then steer into how grit played into it.
Yeah. So my first lifts were squats. Well, first of all, I'll start off with my day. I just went about my day in a normal fashion. To be honest, I just got all my powerlifting tasks done in the morning before I left home.
Living the standard.
Yeah. I still did my ruck and everything. Not leave. I think I left at probably 7:30. A bit after 7:30, I left home, got everything done, and then I got there before weigh-ins, about 15 minutes before the weigh-ins even needed to be done. Got the weigh-in done.
Yeah, I rocked up about half an hour after that.
Yeah, it was all good there. Went smoothly. Had a chat. Was relaxed. And started eating, filling up carbs and whatnot. Just relaxing, having a chat to the guys there. I was pretty chill. And then it got up to, I was in flight, well, the second flight B. The flight A was mainly either females or they were like younger guys, like juniors, like they're pretty young. Like one of them was, I think, like
13, 14.
13, 14, yeah, done really well. But anyway, so while they were doing their first lift, started warming up, and then started with squats. So squats, I think what I start with, I think I did a 150.
Yeah, 150
to
squats.
Start with, that was fairly smooth and moved. So went up to 175. That my unrack was a bit, how's it going? It was a bit, it got something. It was just a bit uneven, but I just stabilised myself and got the lift done. Then I decided to go to the 180. After that, I was really happy with that because I was that was a lot better than the second lift. It was a lot better unrack. I needed a lot of grit to push through.
Absolutely.
That lift. I thought I was stuck on the bottom to the thing, but I just pushed through my quads and glutes and whatnot and got the lift done.
And a split second as well. Like in the moment, like you think you're stuck at the bottom, but like as a spectator, as I was there spectating as well, you just went up and down. So it didn't even look like you were stuck at all. But I can imagine when you're like right in it and you're going down and you've got all this heavy weight on your back and you're bringing yourself up and you're stuck at the bottom, you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then bang, and then the weight comes up. Yeah,
that's right. It just happens sometimes. Then bench, I wasn't overly happy with, to be honest. I got my first 2 lifts were really good, but my last lift I just didn't have enough drive through my enough leg drive. And my back wasn't tight enough, so it was just one of them things, that particular lift. But I've been working on that this week, which has been good this past week. Deadlifts, 170 I started with, got that up pretty easily. Then 195 I actually failed on because the lockout wasn't completely locked on my knees. At first, I was a bit skeptical of that decision, but then looking back at it, it did sort of make sense.
Well, we did have footage, and we did talk to the judge as well, and we all came into an agreement that that's how the lift looked, and that was her decision. And that was that.
Yeah, it actually helped.
Big time.
For the last one. It made me sort of want to make sure that I actually just locked out that last thing, and I sort of even did like a second sort of lockout after the second one, after the first one, to make sure of it, and I got a 210. Oh, so that was a PB, and then the 210 deadlift, and then the 180 squat was a PB as well. So I got 2 PBs on the day, which was good. And I think there's more in the tank there as well. So it's just about a bit of refinement now and sort of tapering it down a bit now, and
re-peaking again the following week for your comp on the 3rd of May, 2nd of May.
Yeah, for
3rd of May. 3rd of May.
But it was good.
Hectic. All right. So that was gritty. Watching you squat, watching you deadlift, watching you bench was very, very gritty, because not only did you have an exuberant amount of load that you had to lift, but you had to repeatedly lift those loads as they got heavier in the space of 10 minutes when people were just knocking off their lifts in the flight. So talk us through how you processed your training towards the competition, and then talk us through the grit that you went through throughout the competition, because it's not easy. And then you need to fuel up, you need to make sure that you're not distracted, you need to make sure that everything for you is on par. So for a novice beginner, that's a lot to take in, whereas you've done 3 comps now, and you're sort of sitting there going, this is just a regular Saturday, right? And so what is your definition of grit? And then please elaborate on how you use that to get your PBs.
Well, grit is just, to me, it's just pushing through, just giving something, like everything you have in a way, just to force yourself through it, even though that there's a lot of barriers there, whether that's mentally or physically. That's probably the simplest way I could put it myself. And by constantly putting yourself in positions where you actually need to overcome them barriers, that develops grit within yourself. Like, it's even just your regular training session does that. My ruck has helped me do that. General situations that may be tough, like whether that's like at work or just general life situations that may not be easy for you at one particular point of time, if you consistently just push through no matter what, no matter how you sort of feel about it, then you're going to develop that grit. And that's essentially, that flows through and goes to things like your competition, every rep. And that goes through to belief, confidence, and everything as well, because you need to have that grit. It's an essential part of life, really. Like, it's quite important, I believe, as are all the other sort of pillars of mental toughness, for that matter. In terms of the day, like, that's pretty much just sums it up. What I've said there, how it's transferred across, it's just knowing that you've pushed through before, that you can do it. That's a big thing for me. Like it's really, it's not just grit, but it's self-belief as well on the back of that grit, if that makes sense. Because you've got that you've developed that sort of dog in you to be able to push through no matter what.
Got that dog.
Just to grind through and not just be a bitch about it, pretty much. Just get it done no matter what. You don't have to be stupid about it. Obviously, you've got to have some smarts about it as well, but you got to...
We can tell you that from experience.
Trust the process that you've put yourself through, and trust your technique, trust everything to enable you to actually get past that barrier and see the other side, and think of it in the way that this moment is not going to last forever, both in the stance of being present at the time, but also that the pain's not going to last so long. There's going to be a period that you're going to be relaxing. There's going to be a period that you're going to be able to enjoy a meal. This moment is not. This pain is not going to stay there forever.
Life isn't all grit.
It's that pushes you to actually put out more grit in that moment because of knowing that. Well, to me, that's how my mind works anyway. Obviously, I'm not sure if other people relate, but I'm sure they do. But that's how my mind sort of works. It enables me to push through them moments.
Mine too. And I completely understand what you're saying. And I know there are other legends out there who have high standards who can relate. And for me, what I've found is grit is one of those topics that is touching, because you look at resilience, you look at mental toughness, you look at withstanding pressure. And so pressure I've always seen as something that is pressing against me. And I used to believe that it was a problem until I learned that it's actually a privilege, because it gives you an opportunity to grow. It gives you an opportunity to stand up and go, hey, this is what's demanded of me, and I'm going to go and exceed that. And so then we then use grit as well to demonstrate that level of perseverance, where let's use me as an example, I'm working through a workout. And so I've never done the intensity of the workout before, but I know that it's going to be required of me to exceed that level, so that the grit that I have allows for me to push through that workout. Like going through Reese's workouts at Body Beyond, Reese at Body Beyond, he's an absolute menace when it comes to training legs. Like I did a leg session with him a couple of times, and both times obliterated. And he just kept pushing me through. He just kept saying, mate, we're doing the reps. This is how many we're doing. Here's how you're going to do it. Let's go. No questions asked. And it was just bang, 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 bang. And I had to grit it out, because Reese's level is not what I'm used to. I'm used to training at my own level, and then I exceed my own level. But then there are also other people that are just beyond the stratosphere when it comes to training, as an example. And so you seek those people out so that then you can develop further, not only as a person who trains harder, but a person who's able to develop grit. Because the only way you are going to develop grit is to do things that require grit. The gritty workouts, the gritty morning routines, the gritty hard conversations. Like, there are lots of things that are gritty, and grit is very uncomfortable to confront as well, because you're looking at a part of yourself that is often frowned upon. Because grit, what I've found in my experience, has been connotated to stoicism, to anger, to withdrawal, to discomfort. And a lot of the times, especially in the society that we live in, discomfort is frowned upon. Everything needs to be comfortable. Everything needs to be fast. Everything needs to be easy. And so when you approach grit, you go, wait a minute, this is not what I'm used to. It's foreign. And so you slowly step back. And there have certainly been moments where I've gone, hey, you know what? No, this is actually tough. I'm not sure if I'm going to pull through. And I've stepped back. But the thing is, a lot of the time when you anticipate something, then it's the anticipation that keeps you afraid and not the actual thing. So when I went through Reese's workouts, I anticipated that I was going to die. But then when I didn't die and I was okay, then I just pushed harder. And the grit that it took for me to just push through that mental masturbation of anticipation, then it allowed me to then change trajectory, to change my attitude. And that's evident, especially when you might have been in a shit situation, and you might have been in so many shit situations that out of nowhere you just start laughing. Like out of the complete madness of your life, that your life is the way it is, or your current season is the way it is, then out of madness you just laugh. That's grit, because you're going, you know what, I'm not going to let this thing take over, and I'm not going to submit to quitting. And it's grit. It's uncomfortable. It's rough. And you've got to be willing to be able to persevere through, not doing the same things all the time and expecting a different result, but constantly understanding that as long as I don't quit, I'm going to win. That to me is grit.
Yeah, exactly. You summed it up pretty well there. And in terms of the anticipation thing about being the killer, I find that's a trigger for me to get everything in line and push through more, like be more intentful, rather than, and then sometimes actually find at the end of it, it wasn't as bad that I thought it was. Like it was just, I had mentally prepared myself that much that it's going to be hard, and executed on that at that point in time, and it just helps you so much. And then you sort of take your grit to push through. You take your discipline to do it, no matter how you feel. You take your previous training and your belief from what you've done before. You take all that, and you actually find that you can push through so much, rather than sort of just be a bitch and not turn up at all.
Absolutely. Pressure does fold people, and it does fold circumstances, because sometimes it can be a lot. And if it goes unaddressed for too long, then a person might not be at that capacity to further withstand the pressure, but then also be able to overcome the pressure, which is why when pressure is there, it's an opportunity for you to both learn from it and to be able to confront it, so that then each time that you're taking new steps into developing yourself, that pressure, even though it's slightly uncomfortable, it's not uncomfortable enough for you to do nothing. And it's also not too comfortable where you're going, hey, look, you know what, I can just cruise. And so being able to gauge where your pressure valve is, so that then you know where your limit is for that moment, so that you can elevate that limit, you can elevate that threshold, because each time that you overcome something different, like a pressure situation, you have an expanded capacity. Your pressure valve increases, where if you never know what your pressure valve is, then you would never know how far you can go. I saw a saying the other day, if you never fire the gun, you'll always have a full mag. And so the thing is, a full mag is also just completely useless, because it does nothing. And you're completely useless if you never fire the gun either, because you never learn. And so being able to see what the pressure is for what it is, which is a lesson, and utilizing the grit that you've developed from confronting and implementing what you need to implement anyway under that pressure, you're only building yourself up. You only develop that character. That's how muscle builds. It builds under stress and then recovery. That's how you build financial literacy, because you might be under the pump financially, but you do everything that you can to make sure that you check your balances, you check what's going out, you make sure you get all the support that you need so that then your pressure valve is much higher than what it would normally be, and then you'd be more inclined to invest in riskier options, where if you need to pay rent tomorrow and you've been gritting it out at work, you're going to continue gritting it out at work and repeating that pattern, where if you change the cycle and you transfer that energy of grit, of perseverance into becoming better financially and more financially literate, eventually it'll then expand out into wealth. And relationships are the same. You're not going to go and grit out a relationship, like go and stressfully argue with somebody to be with you. But sometimes relationships can be tricky, where you develop this particular sense of reality and the other person might have a different sense of their own reality, and it might clash. And if you don't grit it out and you don't understand how to coordinate with one another under pressure, then the relationship is just going to go sideways, and then it eventually ends. Where by understanding that being able to not only perform, but also be able to come to a compromise with one another and elevate each other under that pressure is where grit is developed the most. And so to develop grit, you need to do things that require grit. That's just that's it. And so I know health, wealth, and relationships are the three main things that people go through in everyday life, regardless of profession, regardless of skill set. Those particular three things are the common denominator in everyday life. And so grit will be required of you in all three of those areas, because there are going to be times where it does get uncomfortable. And unless you're willing to admit that, you're going to be uncomfortable for a very long time. Where if you go, hey, look, you know what, this is reality and here's what I need to do to be able to not only just overcome it, but thrive in my own life, here's the work that I need to do. And that's going to take a lot of grit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about just not giving up on it. And, unfortunately, a lot of us seek instant gratification, and by just purely delaying that gratification and pushing through, you need to have grit. You need to be able to physically push through and mentally push through that want of gratification straight away, or that want of something coming to you straight away, or whether it's that job, that relationship, that personal best at the gym, whatever it is. You've just got to have that grit to be able to keep putting in the work and push through them sticking points that you may feel as though you can't. You've got to be able to just put that all aside and just keep going regardless.
Absolutely. There are moments for that as well, because especially if you're growing something like an enterprise or a relationship, or your financial well-being, you need to have the blinkers on. But then when you are being social and you're not in that zone because that's not what's required of you in that moment, it can be very hard to switch off, especially if you're that person who likes to be in the zone when they're at work, when they're at home, because their identity is warped around it. And so that's gritty as well. Unpacking and unlearning some of those traits and being able to be as present as possible in the situations that require them to be present. And so if you're working and you're focusing, absolutely double down, have the grit, no distractions, full throttle. But if you're at a birthday party, right, you're not going to be thinking about what you're going to be doing at home, right? You're going to be there at the birthday party. That doesn't require grit. That just requires you to be present. And so for me, what I want to make sure that is discernible is that there is a time and a place for grit, right? And so working on your business full time every single day, grit, absolutely required. Your workouts at the gym, grit, absolutely every day, every time you're at the gym. Your ruck, for example, absolutely requires grit every single time, right? If you're at your best friend's baby shower on a Sunday afternoon, it does not require grit at all. It just requires you to be present. And so there are times where I have been accused of just having the blinkers on and just full throttle straight ahead in every single situation ever. And it hurt, because the thing is, what happened was I alienated everybody, because I was always just either serious or I'd have deep and meaningful conversations, and either they often didn't lead anywhere because I was hanging around the wrong people, or at the same time, I didn't apply the skill that I needed to incorporate some small talk with other people so that then I get better at making connections. And so for me, I had to unlearn that, which took a lot of grit, because I can sometimes be very, very self-absorbed, and everything that I do and say has merit because of the way that I see the world. But I need to realize that as a social creature, there are other people around me who have either a similar way of thinking or even a different way of thinking. I need to be open enough in order for me to be able to receive that and go, hey, look, you know what? No, you know what? I disagree. I apologize. I respect what you have to say, but you know what? That's not the deal for me. And other times, hey, look, you know what? I see what you're saying. I understand, and you know what? That's probably a reflection on me. I need to go and examine myself and see what's come up for me so that I can reflect. It's very important to be able to self-reflect, and that takes a lot of grit as well, and it's very uncomfortable, because the very thing that most, I feel, need to do is take a deeper look at themselves, which they don't often do. And then when they do, they get immediately uncomfortable, so they stop. And so that's, I personally think, a great way to end this episode. I think the grittiest thing that you could do is take a really deep look at yourself and go, am I really doing all that I could be doing? And if not, take a deep look at yourself and go, hey, look, you know what? You've made it this far. Congratulations. But now we need to turn the dial a little bit so that then the next step that we're looking for in that level of personal excellence, we're able to grit out and focus on the things that need our attention currently, so that then we can further expound on the greatness that we have.
Yeah, couldn't sum it up better than myself.
Thank you for tuning into today's episode. We're really glad that you're with us. If you liked the show, please share, subscribe.
And yeah, guys, don't be a hoe.
And share the show.